Welcome to the Andrew D'Angelo podcast.
Constant Constance. Each week, Andrew, renowned jazz saxophonist and brain cancer survivor, invites us to look at the many worlds of his guests, with conversations that cover all the arts, human resilience, a little bit of politics, and a lot of humour.
You can't fail to have a fantastic time.
Let's see. Are you ready to illuminate?
I'm ready.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm here today with Danae Greenfield, who is a young but very accomplished composer and keyboardist. And gosh golly, we met when you were in college, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But you grew up in Seattle or in the area, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, East Side, Bellevue area.
Right.
I didn't start venturing out to Seattle till high school.
Really?
Yeah. I was, pretty sheltered, as one could say. But, ended up being able to, explore and such in Seattle. Starting high school when I got my license, whatnot.
One of the things that when I was just thinking on you and talking to my nephew Storm, who I bring up pretty much every podcast. Storm was pretty much co-producing this podcast.
Amazing.
Yeah, he's like, you should get Danae on, man. That'd be so cool. And when I was talking to him and discovering how I met you, because I knew you were from Seattle, but I don't think we knew you then, and that's right. Storm met you in Boston. But anyway, when I was kind of just looking at your questions that your fans asked you and some that I have of my own, and I was thinking you're kind of an empath, right? Would you call yourself an empath?
Yeah, I'd say so. You're gonna have to remind me what an empath is. I don't know.
Well, first of all, empaths are just people who are sensitive to other people's energy. They can pick up on things. Maybe they can tell when somebody's lying, or maybe some people use the word psychic, but that word has kind of outgrown itself. So now,
no, definitely.
Yeah.
Now that I understand more. Totally. I feel like I've always been someone who's been able to kind of sense when something, something's not right or something's slightly off, and kind of, when someone's beating around the bush for in regards to the truth or what they're really thinking. Definitely.
Right. So, and I first of all, we're going to have great, duets of hand movements, because I do that a lot too. I'm always like, the only reason I brought it up was when you said you didn't really venture out to Seattle until, high school or whatever. But, empaths, it's difficult for us to be in crowded, because I am one as well. And it's difficult for us to be in crowded places because we pick up on everybody's energy. It's funny, as performers, I mean, we play in front of thousands or hundreds of people, depending, right? But going to a concert for me is so stressful because of being around everybody's energy.
Oh man, yeah. Don't even get me started about concerts.
Hey, it's your interview. Go for it.
Oh man, I mean, just as a general thing, actually, the one really nice thing about not going to pretty much any concerts this year is that I haven't had to deal with
interact with anybody,
deal with people. I don't know. I have some pet peeves when it comes to concerts, for sure. I feel like there's only been a handful of times where I've actually gone to a standing concert and enjoyed myself 100% of the time. I mean, whether it's me being claustrophobic, someone's getting too close to me, which is even crazy to talk about now, just thinking about being in a room shoulder to shoulder with people is just, wow. Hasn't happened in a long time.
I know. I know. And I think that your fans and people who who are listening to my podcast would be surprised how many well-known famous musicians cannot stand to go to concerts themselves because they just don't enjoy that function of being. And then I did an interview yesterday, maybe it was the day before, and with this woman, and she was saying, you know, she was looking at old concert videos of herself trying to find something to post, and she goes, "My God, I never realized how packed in everybody was." And she goes, "I don't know." She goes, "I don't know if I'll ever feel good about doing that again." I mean, who knows? I mean, nobody's predicting the future here, but she said the exact same thing that you just said.
Yeah, it's just really crazy. I mean, I don't know. In Brooklyn, they feel like Brooklyn, Manhattan, they've kind of figured out some ways to, I don't know, some outdoor things. I mean, but anyone that says New York is dead also is just
dead.
That's not right.
They're dead.
They're dead. Yeah, they're actually the dead ones. But yeah, that whole thing is crazy. I mean, people are in venues are trying to do the best they can right now, and you know, I mean, the few times I've gone to like any kind of outdoor thing, I felt comfortable. I haven't been shoulder to shoulder with anyone, and you know, it kind of, you know, relieves this kind of like, oh man, I want to see live music, you know, kind of stress. Like I haven't seen live music in, you know, months, you know, kind of, you know, I don't know, anxiety. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it, but I went to maybe 2 outdoor things, you know, when it was still warm out, and they were really nice, but there is still that aspect of like, wow, like I really don't know when we're all going to be shoulder to shoulder in a packed room again. Like,
right.
I don't think till 2022. And like, I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, everyone's different, but even if stuff is, you know, everything's back to normal come next summer-ish, who knows with the vaccine or what, you know, however that's going to go. I mean, I still don't think people will be like 100% comfortable with going to a packed show, especially indoor too. Maybe outdoor you'll get some more, you know, more people wanting to do an outdoor thing, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, we could talk about the pandemic, you know, until our faces fall off. But, you know, it's, you know, there's going to be that one person or persons who didn't get the vaccine who are at that show, right? Like that's it's like that person on the street, like, why is that family not wearing masks? Like, it's not that big of a deal. And we're just all trying to help each other out. And there's going to be those people.
Yeah.
So let's get into some fan questions for Danae. This is one that in my 35-year career as a professional musician, I have gotten this question numerous times. So I'm going to ask it first because since you're much younger than me, I'd be curious to see if you've ever been asked this question.
Okay. How
did you decide to be a musician for a living?
Okay. I mean, I feel like my answer is actually more standard than what you may think. However, I'll still give the short-ish version.
Go for it, please.
But yeah, I mean, kind of long story, kind of short. I, you know, started playing piano when I was 6 years old, and I started with kind of just standard piano lessons. I guess more geared towards classical music. I don't know. And then around 5th grade, I kind of started getting an occasional jazz song in my, you know, big, you know, somewhat beginner. At this point, I'm on like the Faber books, like level 5 or something. I'm nearing the end of these Faber book series.
This is when you're 6, 8?
This is by 5th grade. Now I'm like 11,
okay.
10.
Got it. Sorry, I missed that part. I just want to make sure that it's in there.
All good.
Yeah.
And yeah, now I'm like 10, 11. I'm kind of ending these like Faber book series that I actually used to teach now, which is a cool full circle kind of thing. And yeah, I started getting the occasional jazz song in some of these, Faber books. And I was like, oh, I really like these. And so in 6th grade, now I'm 12 or so, and I decided to switch to jazz lessons only. And taking jazz lessons all through middle school. In high school, I switched to another teacher who I still, communicate with all
cool.
the time.
Very cool.
His name's Michael Stegner. He's living in LA now, but he had a music studio called Creative Music Adventures in oh my gosh, what's it called? Not Fremont, not Ballard.
Was
Wallingford,
it
Wallingford?
Yeah, it was in Wallingford. I mean, I'm familiar with Michael. I've never met him, but I think it was in Ballard or Wallingford or something, right?
Yes. Yep. Exactly. So I went there on like Wednesday nights. My dad drove me.
Right. Aw.
Yeah. And those were very inspiring. And then also, what really got me was this jazz workshop camp called Centrum, which I went to. It's in Port Townsend. It happens every summer during normal times. Actually, I don't know if they had it this year. Maybe
they did not. They did not have it this year.
Okay. Oh, that's so
wonderful. Cool. Centrum is a wonderful experience for a lot of people who attend it. So
yeah.
And I'm going to have Carlos Senemo on, and he sets up his shop, his saxophone repair shop instrument repair shop at Centrum.
Nice.
And gets to hang out with people and just sit at his table and, chat with everybody.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Well, talking about Centrum. Sorry, but I interrupted you. Did you want to finish that?
No, there's Centrum. Yeah, Centrum's amazing, but ending the longish now story. But Centrum is kind of the place that really solidified my passion for music. And at the time, I mean, I liked some subjects in school, but nothing was really like standing out to me. Like, I liked science. I liked my science classes. I did not like my math classes. I mean, history. So at the time, this is now like I'm a sophomore in high school, and I was just like, yeah, this is amazing. I love playing jazz, and this is what I want to do. And kind of, it was nearing the time where I had to start kind of deciding, college stuff was starting to come up, and I was like, well, I'm going to do this.
Right. Well, beautiful. And that kind of ties into this question, which I don't believe you've seen because I think it came in after we spoke. Are you ever going to play with Sawmill again? I would consider that indie music. Is that basically this TMD? I don't know. That's their name on Instagram. Was asking, would you call your music indie music or jazz or something else, basically? And Sawmill, like that's an old band at this point, right?
Yeah, Sawmill was the first band that I was in that wasn't jazz. And it was such an eye-opening experience for me. That was John Nankoff's band, and I was in that with Storm and Blake. And
Storm was in that band?
Yeah. Yeah.
My nephew's all over this podcast, man. I can't shake him.
It was meant to be. But yeah, Sawmill was amazing. I'd say an indie like folk band I was like Storm and I were the only like Berkeley students in that band. Everyone else was New England Conservatory. But man, I still hear like some songs on the radio or random songs, and I'm like, wow, that really sounds like Sawmill. And I feel like, I hope that our like EP is still on the internet somewhere, maybe Bandcamp.
What we can do is when I publish the video, let's give people a place to go,
sure,
to find that music from Sawmill or whatever.
Sure.
Even though my nephew's on it, I didn't remember that, but
yeah, no, totally. I love that.
Synchronicities, man. That's crazy.
Very cool. Yeah. I guess I just wanted to say, yeah, Sawmill was my first like recording kind of experience, and first time someone told me to only play triads, and I was like, I don't, what, like triads, like it's so boring. Like, I don't know, in my head I'm thinking, oh man, it's just a triad. I can't add a seventh. I can't add, all my cool like jazz voicings, and it really kind of made me kind of take a step back and just really sit on, just three notes at a time, one note at a time, and really just kind of, yeah, it was very eye-opening. I love that band. I still love that band.
For me, it's when I've done those types of either pop or rock or indie, whatever you want to call it. You didn't really answer what you like to label your music as, but maybe that's cool. If you want to answer that for the person that asked, that would be nice.
Yeah, my music personally has become some sort of a fusion, a jazz fusion, I would say. Fusion's super general, but I have two main groups that I play my original music with. And one is an acoustic jazz like quartet, sometimes trio. And then the other band is my like electronic band, which is like, I don't know, electric bass, tenor sax with tons of pedals, and I have pedals. I play my synth and my Nord. And I'd say that's some kind of a jazz fusion. There isn't really a good way to answer that for that quintet, but
fair enough. That paints a perfect picture of where you're at with the labels. It's interesting because when I started doing, as I was just about to say, pop or rock gigs or whatever back, also when I was about your age, it's kind of liberating when they say you have to play in this tonality or, like you said, triads only. And there's, Kurt Rosenwinkel, my friend, the guitarist, who's also going to be on the show. His thing is that people in general and all genres can rely too much on their gear, on their technique, and whether that technique is electronics or, some keyboard sound that they overuse, or they're not really playing, they're just halfway using the sound. Yeah. And we were on tour. Kurt and I were on tour, and they lost his pedal board, the airline. And I said, all right, Rosenwinkel, let's see you make the gig without all your fucking pedals, man. And he got, I think I told this on another podcast, so I don't know if I might have to edit this out, but he got a delay and a distortion pedal from one of his students came to the show. Mm-hmm. But that's it. He was naked and he sounded amazing. I mean, Kurt's just
awesome,
otherworldly on that guitar. But I gave him shit. I said, all right, you don't have all your toys. Let's see you live up to, and he did it. So how do you feel about gear? I mean,
it's interesting. Like, I didn't even start to get into pedals until maybe the last year or two. I'd say 2 years or so. Started off with honestly, I started off with a pedal that was probably way over my head. I'm like still trying to figure it out. It's a Strymon Mobius, and it has just so many different, chorus flanger, a vibe kind of function, just a lot of different stuff. I should have started off with something more simple. But to answer your question, I feel that pedals have inspired me because, well, one, my quintet music, some of my pedal sounds have inspired some of my compositions or the way I write music, which is cool. But I feel like the even cooler part of that is that what you were saying about kind of being, about the simple chords and stuff. I think the cool thing about pedals is that I can play one note on the piano or keyboard and, really use the pedal to drive that one note or, 2 notes, 3 notes, whatever. But, a pedal can turn a one note into this crazy atmosphere or soundscape. And I think that's really, really cool. And it enables me to still be able to play simple, and then kind of do a lot of experimentation and just, self-discovery, I guess, sound discovery. Yeah, and I'm still learning a lot about, you know, the pedals and stuff, but it's been a really cool, creative kind of little project for me.
I love the Mobius pedal. It's a great pedal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Danae Greenfield supports Mobius pedals.
Yeah, and I am endorsed by Earthquaker devices, which is a cool thing. I get a little discount off their pedals, and they have some crazy stuff too. They have the space spiral, the Earthquaker space spiral. Yeah, and it kind of just goes like this with the notes. It's a and crazy stuff. I use that one.
Do you have a website or something to tell people to go send them?
I would say it's linked on my Instagram bio, but I can send it, you know, I can link it as well.
You should definitely give a shout out to the folks at Earthquake. That would be great.
Yeah. Shout out Earthquaker.
So I guess just to pursue, because this is the kind of thing that interests me, and we'll get to more questions in a minute. So when you were talking about using whatever pedal or whatever keyboard sound and being able to play one note and use the sound to generate interesting effects or tones or engaging, there's something that I wanted to ask you that's off script, but it's something I'm really curious specifically in you. And I asked Reed Anderson this question, the bass player for the Bad Plus, and your videos are getting 10K, sometimes 17, 20K views. Is there in your life, and now you're on a Grammy nominated record, which we'll talk about in a sec, but is there I don't know if you're familiar with the law of attraction. Do you know The Secret? And are you familiar? Kind of.
Yeah.
Well, basically it's just what it insinuates, theorizes, is that your intention creates your manifestation. So I was wondering how intentional your willingness to accept people enjoying what you're doing, your creations, or is it just willy-nilly? You're kind of taking a video of a puppy and a baby and it goes viral, or, you know, you're making this video and you just are having a good old time. You drop it and 17,000 people watch it. Anyway.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to talk about. I mean, part of me is, it doesn't really feel like I'm doing anything, you know, I would say all the videos and the stuff I post is still like stuff that I want to post. And I know, you know, there's an audience, and I'm, you know, super grateful for, you know, people watching my videos and doing all that, but it still feels like I'm just posting. I post my videos because there's something in there that I was inspired by, or was, you know, I don't know, found creative, and I just wanted to do, you know, a little short thing. And I don't know, I'd say my Instagram videos are, you know, it's weird. Like, yes, I'm thinking of my audience, but I'm also like, mostly I'd say I'm trying to just focus on myself as well. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm like,
you're not that self-centered. Come on, Danae.
I don't know. I know. Now when I said it, I'm like, oh wow, that was really.
That's why it's great. It's pre-recorded. I can always take out the gaff. I can always take out a gaff. It's not a big deal. But I guess what I'm like, here's my approach to answering that question. If I was asked it, imagine a young woman or a young man who's curious, why do people love Danae so much and her music? How can I, you know, does she buy, you know, because you can buy, you know, likes on Instagram and Facebook, and I don't think, not on Twitter, but, you know, and so maybe people are interested, but it sounds like you're just kind of just being yourself and have the same doubts that we all have, You know, is that fair? Or do you want to
Yeah.
do you summarize it if you want? I don't want to summarize it for you.
Yeah, no, I think that's
Imagine,
yeah, that
imagine there's another you watching you talk about this. What would you tell them?
I would say that I think people, you know, I try to kind of emit a, you know, a positive energy, you know, with my videos. I try to play from the heart. I'm kind of just doing my thing, and I feel like, you know, people gravitate towards that. I don't know if it's because my room looks cool in Brooklyn or whatnot, but I don't know. I just
it's cool. It's neat that you're kind of, you know, getting embarrassed or, you know, kind of shy. I mean, it just shows what a humble person you are, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I kind of just am like, thank you. I'm kind of just
Fair
like
enough.
I'm a little at a loss for words, like how, you know, how I've gained, you know, some traction, you know, and an audience. But I kind of just keep posting videos, and sometimes I do collaborations with other people. So, you know, that's a way for, you know, kind of, you know, two-way street kind of thing. Like my audience can, you know, see my friends' videos now, and it's kind of, we're all helping each other out. And I feel like, yeah, overall, you know, Instagram has been a kind of collaborative and welcoming space for people around the world. Which
that's the wonderful thing about the internets, right? Is that we get to, you know, reach out to people all over the place. I really love that. So tell everybody you're on a Grammy nominated. Let me do that again. So tell everybody you're on a Grammy nominated recording. Can you tell us how that happened? You said you sort of have a story or something about.
Yes, I do. So it's pretty cool, I guess. It's a little bit surreal, but it also kind of feels like it's not even real in a way because of kind of how it all happened. So I'm on John Legend's album that he released this year. I'm on one of his songs. So it's not, you know, I didn't play on the whole album, just one song. But how the one song came about is a very, like, when I think of like the music industry in New York, like this is probably something you know, a classic, you know, New York experience. But in August of 2018, I had a friend who was assistant engineering at a studio in Times Square. I don't exactly remember which one, but
Was it Power Station or something like that, or Avatar?
no, the two, it didn't ring a bell at the time, because I know what those look like. I've seen pictures.
I love the fact.
Amazing. Oh my God.
Right. I love the fact. Yeah, I missed the studios, but I love the fact that you recorded a track on a John Legend record and you have no idea what the name of the studio was. I think that is that's a beautiful. Hey, folks, listen to Danae. Sometimes that stuff, because people often in these podcasts, they'll correct me on certain things, and I'm saying that detail just isn't that important. What's important is what's around it. So definitely. I'm sorry, I interrupted your story. So
no worries. So I still don't know the studio to this day, and I went there. My friend, assistant engineer friend, said, "Hey, you want to come in? You know, this day in August 2018, and you know, we're recording a song. We need some piano on a track." And at the time, the artist was not John Legend. It was another guy who was signed to the same label as John Legend. And originally, it was going to be his song. So I went in the studio. I recorded this, you know, fairly simple piano part, and was in there for maybe an hour total. Was recording maybe for a half an hour total. Just did a couple takes, and the engineer was like, "Yeah, it sounds great." You know, she had maybe one suggests like try it higher in this part or lower in this part, but nothing crazy. And I got $100 on Venmo. It was like, yep, easy, sweet. Like, that was awesome. Like, an hour for $100? Come on, that was awesome. And nothing, I didn't hear from either of them till last December 2019. I'm on my way to a little, holiday shindig, actually around, what day is today? Really around, maybe like around this time, last year. And I'm on my way to this thing, and I get a text from this unknown number and said, "Hey, Danae, it's so-and-so from, the recording session last August. I just wanted to let you know that the song you played on got picked up by John Legend, and it's going to be the first single that he's releasing on his new album in 2020. And I'm like, what? John Legend? And I think I just responded like, John. I said, "Oh wow, amazing, John Legend." Like, I was like, wait, really?
Is it like, is this a bot or something? Like somebody's like just
exactly.
Jerking me around or whatever.
Exactly. I mean, it took like a minute to be like, oh, that's like really big. And so I was like, okay, great. Like, how can I go about getting royalties for this?
Exactly.
I was, as you know, I was originally paid X on Venmo. And she said, oh, okay, yeah, I can look into that for you. But most likely you're going to have to go through the union. You're going to have to become a member of the union so you can get union fees. So sure enough, I send multiple emails to the union, calls, this is now January. This is now like the song's been released. It's blown up. It's #1 on Apple, whatever, iTunes. I don't know. And I'm like, oh my God, this is big. Like, wonder if I'm going to get any money for this. and after many months, as of 1 month ago, now November 2020, I finally was able to eventually communicate with the people I needed to communicate with. Not through the union. I never was even able to get in contact with the union. But I finally got paid a little bit more. But for the longest time, I was like, yeah, I play on this song, and I got paid $100 on Venmo for it. So it's a funny, interesting story. Also I'd say it says a lot about kind of the music industry as well, kind of where we're at, like, people, receiving a fair wage for work that they do. Streams are also huge right now, and, I don't know if really I saw the accurate representation. I mean, it's just money too. Like, whatever. Like, I'm happy. I'm so grateful just for the opportunity. And, I had already kind of come to a place maybe this past spring where I was like, hey, like, if I don't get paid any more money, like, that's such a cool thing that I did that. And I didn't even know that was going to happen until a month before the song came out. And, weird, funny story.
Well, it's weird, it's funny, and it's super cool. But one thing that I understand is musicians, well, artists in general, are, especially during the pandemic, are just giving their art away. I mean, not everybody, but there is a lot of people that have just given up and are like, I'm just going to do this live stream and take tips if I get them, or just put this video up on YouTube. And it's, I mean, I'm not doing this podcast necessarily to generate income, but it crossed my mind because, people so far, everybody's just been generously saying, yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast. And so thank you very much, Danae, for taking your time. But it's interesting because if you were protected when you did that session by the union, scale, I think, is about $385. So you would have gotten $385, and you would have been a musician for hire, work for hire,
Right.
and you would not be able to get royalties or any of that because
Wow.
you don't have. Yeah, but it depends on the contract that you sign when you do the work.
Right, and at the time I didn't, it was a verbal.
I'm like 80. None of us think about it.
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, man, I'll do your record, man. I'll like play on that track, man. And they're like, I'll take you out to dinner. Is that cool? I'm like, sure. And then if it goes, a lot of sales, you're like, oh, geesh. Believe me, I could tell some stories of situations I've gotten myself in where it's like, yep.
And I would like to hear those someday. I like, yeah.
Well, the thing is that there are non-disclosure agreements, and even when Prince became the symbol instead of Prince, he was in a lawsuit with is it Warner? I think he was with Warner at the time.
Yeah.
And they owed him like $350 million. He said, I'm not, anyway, he ended up winning. There was a thing with Conan O'Brien when he lost the TV show and he had to sue. I mean, it's just phenomenal, the stories, and at different levels of those. It was like, yay, I got a talk show. Sure, I'll sign this contract. Oh, you fired me after a week or a month, whatever it was with Conan, right? But you can't just do that. My contract is for 6 months or a year. I don't remember exactly. And he ended up having to sue to get his money for the time that they fired him.
Wow.
And it's like, really? Like, how come people just aren't cool, right?
Yeah.
I'm not talking John Legend. I don't know John Legend. I'm not talking about you, sir. I'm just talking about in general. Like, hey, man, you should get a piece of the pie here. Spotify, pay me, $2 for my.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started with Spotify. But it's just like it's general like weird like thing where it's just like even in the music industry, we're still like in this like weird pyramid like tier thing, and it's like I feel like. Man, of all industries, why the music industry? Like, why does it have to be a similar thing where it's like there's these, 1% of people up here, that are just raking in so much. I mean, if those Spotify guys, shared their income just from doing nothing, well, each year, raking in all these, all this revenue from other people's, putting their music on Spotify. And if they shared that, oh man, it would be really something. But yeah, it's just strange how we're still, we're all still climbing this like ladder, and there's no like platform where that really the wealth is shared evenly.
Well, it's interesting, Danae, if I can just interject here.
Yeah.
I belong to this thing called Entrepreneur, and this gentleman, Circa Mundo, is the guy who started it, and it's all about this. So it's about, independent music artists, but it can be flushed out to all different types of artistic endeavors, and how we often allow ourselves to get pounced on, and it's those trying to get your Spotify plays or streaming plays in general, is a wonderful thing. But anyway, on there, sorry, long way around the horn there. But I was talking about how we used to get what we called mail money, which was copyright royalties for content that we created, whether that were sync licensing or radio plays or actual record sales or whatever. I would get substantial checks, $3,000, $5,000, $7,000, a month, whatever. Wow. And one of the people in your age group in this private group that you pay to belong to said, well, wait, what are you talking about? You got money for your music from sales? Or like this kid? I mean, and sorry to call you folks kids, but you are.
No. No offense taken.
But okay. But anybody who might take offense, I'm sure will let me know. But it's was interesting to me that he just could not wrap his head around the idea that I and my friends and other people, of course, were getting paid when their music sold or was used on a commercial. I've never been in a commercial that I know of musically. Or like my friends got one of their songs in a movie, a Netflix series, but it was a cover of a Charlie Parker song. So they got no money.
Wow.
Nope.
Insane. I do have actually one story or one thing that I did actually get money for, where I feel like I was compensated fairly, which was the first summer I was in New York. I got a random call from a friend of a friend, and he was like, "Hey, I have an audition for this commercial, and we need a keys player. It's tomorrow. It's like tomorrow morning. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Sure." And I showed up, and we did this cover. We made up this arrangement, like this 4-piece band of this Price is Right theme song. And it was for like a New York State lottery commercial. But the primary actors in that were a band. So they wanted a band to play the Price is Right theme song for their lottery commercial. And because we were like in the show, we ended up getting, he ended up getting the gig. And so I ended up being in this New York State lottery commercial. And that's the only time I was compensated fairly, but not for the music. I feel like it was just because of the screen time, because we were considered primary actors in the thing. So it got played, on TV after, the baseball games and after Jeopardy. And, it was like, I never actually saw it like live. That would have been really cool. But yeah, that was one time where I was compensated, but only because I was a primary actor in regardless. I mean, yeah, even though I was playing music, I was still like on the screen. And I think that's why I got compensated fairly.
You're correct. That's why you got compensated. But the reality is that there was laws passed that made all those things possible, just like the 40-hour work week.
Really?
And the women's right to vote and gay rights and Roe v. Wade, abortion and all this stuff. I mean, that's because, and one thing that streaming and Spotify is attempting to just destroy that structure.
Yes.
And it's doing a pretty gosh darn good job.
Yeah.
But one thing I wanted to ask you, and this is totally up to you if you would to answer this question or not. And also depending on your time, but because I do at least have one question off your list, but I want to ask this because I've been asking pretty much everybody on the podcast. Can you talk about, and I spoke with Maya Lederer, she's about your age and she's a budding chef. And I spoke to her last week. And so she talked about this as it relates to the restaurant and service industry. But, and then I had this gay author on, James Gavin, on Sunday, and he was talking about George Michael. He's writing a biography on him. And George Michael never really came out as a gay man because it would have he got forced out by that whole scandal, bathroom sex, and that kind of really damaged his career. But to me, it was a little depressing. I'm like, really? Like George Michael can't come out, Yeah. But what about this? What about sexism or racism or homophobia in the music business? I mean, all three of those or just one of them or two, whatever you want to talk about, if you want to.
Yeah, I think all three are still very much present in the music industry. I can speak about the sexism aspect of that, as I am a female and I am not a vocalist by trade. I sing one song on my EP, but other than that, I mean, I've been just an instrumentalist my whole life. So I've experienced a bit of this at Berklee, especially being in a super rigorous environment and coming into Berklee just like strictly a jazz instrumental, jazz pianist, and I just remember going to jam sessions my first year at Berklee, and being in this, classroom or an ensemble room of, say there's 20 people in there. I'm the only girl. And yeah, just a lot of just having to really fight my way just to be able to play like a half a song, like, a song, yes.
Danae, hold on. First of all, let's clarify. You're talking about Berklee School of Music in Boston.
Berkeley. Yes.
Right. Just because there is the Berkeley, California, right?
So of course. Yeah. Sorry. I just kind of made
I don't want to make things too niche, even though if somebody is here, they're probably very curious about your thoughts and understand what Berkeley is, but just wanted to be clear in case somebody's, parent is watching or something.
Right.
But when you say you had to fight your way through in a session at Berkeley, what is it? What are you fighting? What are you talking about?
I mean, this, the door is here, I'm standing close to the door, because the room is totally packed, and there's, say there's between 5 and 10 people per instrument that are all rotating out of this jam session. And I don't know, sometimes it just kind of seemed like I was kind of invisible.
Because you're a female, is what you're saying.
Yes. And which is interesting. And also at the time I was really I was pretty shy in these jam sessions. I didn't have a ton of confidence about my playing. So I'm hearing these other people. I'm obviously thinking, oh shit, like these people are so good. I'm not as good. Like, should I even play? So I obviously had those doubts as well. And because of that, I wasn't really, I didn't really push my way to the front. I would let everyone else kind of have their turn. But then when it did come time for everyone's now played, now people are starting to go their second time. And I haven't gone my first time. I haven't played, my first time. And I don't know, maybe part of it is my, kind of shyness in that instance. But I also feel like it's that, people maybe didn't want me to play as much as them. They didn't want to give me a chance. No one was like, hey, like, come on, like, yeah, give it a shot. I just felt really, in that instance, just kind of invisible per se. And I got more confident. I've gained confidence over the years. It's I'd say it's gotten better, but I have seen it in New York at jam sessions as well. Just like, these female instrumentalists kind of, who aren't trying to sing a song, just really like waiting around, and I can tell they want to play, and just no one's really helping them get that opportunity to, to play. And it's frustrating.
So even though haven't really given us a concrete example that it was based on the fact that you were, female, you even called yourself a girl, which bothers some women at this point to even call them a girl. I mean, we've all just become very sensitive to, things that are no longer acceptable that we've put up with. Or like my friends jokingly calling me faggot or something. Like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of funny, but it's also like, come on. Yeah. I mean, but you don't really have, unless you can think of, and I realize I'm just throwing this question at you without any prep, and I apologize for that. But how do we know that those interactions you had at Berkeley in Boston, School of Music in Boston, and then jam sessions in New York, your observations, how do we, maybe that's just people didn't think you were good enough or confident enough. How do we know it's because you were female? And that's a devil's advocate question. Right. I obviously understand, but can you bring us all into what that feels like if you're up for it?
Yeah, I can try. It is a hard question.
It's hard, and also because you don't want to.
Because maybe I don't know, like maybe it wasn't, but
right.
I don't know if there's a way that I'll really be sure. But I don't know. I mean, I've heard stories. I guess nothing really firsthand, but I have heard stories about. I don't know. Like verbal, some people saying some verbal stuff towards, towards female instrumentalists. I don't know. I don't really want to speak to that because I haven't experience of any.
Right. We've all heard stories like, hey, you sound pretty good for a girl.
Yeah.
Or you're like, I didn't know a lady could play so well and look so beautiful. We've all heard these firsthand stories. So let's just say Danae has very good intuition, which she acknowledged earlier about being an empath. And I don't know if that was in the official interview, but we talked about your empathy and your ability to understand and pick up on people's energy. And whereas maybe something like racism and or homophobia is a little more kind of in your face because there's derogatory terms, and if you're a male, we like to go at each other kind of thing. But I think we'll just let that rest. And I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time to speak to it. And I mean, you would be surprised how fired up some people have been getting about this subject. I mean, Maya had a lot to say about it. And I think I just put something on Instagram where she talks about it. But
I want to check it out. I'm curious. I'm curious. I want to know what everyone else is, saying about the subject. And,
I mean, pretty much the same crap is happening in the restaurant industry and in the writer or author, world, music, jazz. Yeah, it's there. So absolutely love these questions, and they're all kind of related. And I don't know if I find one of them funny, but I want to know your answer.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask 3 questions because I feel like they're all related, and you do whatever you want with them. So just give me a second. What chords / chord scale pairings have you been digging? Well, that's one. Major versus minor. No punctuation. And
that one.
Right. And then this one, which I love. How do you resolve an E flat major, flat 9, sharp 11 over B chord? I can't wait. I don't know if there's some kind of inside joke there or if you're actually going to answer that.
Absolutely. Again, I don't know if the person was just kind of just picking a random serious string of, notes, chords, but that one's very funny. Okay, so there's the first one, what chords / chords?
Chord scales, pairings have you been digging?
Okay, so I have this kind of exercise that I've come up with in the last 2 years or so I call them chord scales. And what I'll do, I don't know if I can actually link, would be a good thing to link maybe after, because I have a little tutorial on it on the internet. But it's these chord scales, and pretty much what it is picking like 2 kinds of chords, maybe say a minor 7th chord and then a major 7th chord, and then pairing that with any scale. So say like a C major scale, and it's really hard to explain. It would be easier if people go and watch the link afterwards. But pretty much we use the scale in our top voice. So like my pinky in the right hand, and everything that's below my pinky in the left hand is alternating between the 2 chords that I said. So like starting with a C and like a whatever, like the first chord is, so like a minor 7th. So it'll be like a C in the top voice and then a minor 7th. And then we keep going up the scale, and the chord qualities are also alternating, as I said, major 7th to minor 7th to major 7th, back to minor 7th. And it just kind of ends up being able to, give you these crazy, cool harmonic ideas. And that's just, that's just a major scale too. If you get into other scales and stuff, then the chords become crazier, and it ends up just being this cool ear training thing. But I promise it'll make more sense if you hear it in the video.
I got this interesting question for you, Danae, and I got 3 of them, which I think are related. So I'm going to ask all 3 and then see if you have a response to them.
Sure.
One is, what chords/chord scale pairings have you been digging? The next one is major versus minor, which, I mean, that's like asking which came first, the chicken or the egg, but we'll see. And then this one, which I love, how do you resolve an E flat major / flat 9 sharp 11 over B chord? But why don't we start with the first one? What chord scale pairings have you been digging? And maybe you can, show us on your keyboard since you have it out.
Sure. Yeah. So I came up with this like weird little exercise that I call Chord Scales about 2 years ago. And I think overall, it's just a really cool way to, kind of start hearing some new sounds, new chord pairings, string of chords. But it's just a good kind of ear training thing that I've come across with self-discovery over the last, since moving to New York. So my chord scales, I guess I'll just give a quick little rundown. But to do this chord scale thing, we must first pick a scale, any scale. So say we do a C major scale. Okay, and then let's pick a chord voicing, and let's just start with one chord voicing. So for example, we can say like a minor 7th. So just like anything like that. And then third step, I guess you kind of have to work backwards in a way, but the way it works is the scale degree will always be the top voice of your chord. So we're doing a C major scale. So every single note in the C major scale will be a different chord, and it'll always be the top voice of the chord. And after we do that, we're going to work backwards. In that, we ask ourselves, okay, so the first chord, this first scale degree is the top voice of what chord? So if we're doing a minor 7th chord with this structure, right? This top note is the 5th of the chord we're playing. So in this case, we're playing a C minor 7, and our G is our top note. So we have to say, okay, in a C major scale, C is the 5th scale degree of what chord, which is an F minor 7. So our first chord we're going to play is an F minor 7. And pretty much we work up the scale. Right now we're just using our minor 7th chord. So we just work up the scale using this same structure where the voicing we are currently using is, our top voice is the 5th scale degree of the chord. And we're going to play a C major scale. So when we repeat each of these steps for each of the scales, it kind of ends up sounding like this. So it's like F minor 7, G minor 7, A minor 7, B flat minor 7, C minor 7, D minor 7, E minor 7, F minor 7. And so that's kind of the gist of it. But it starts becoming kind of cool when we mix up like the chord quality. So if we do the same scale, but say we're alternating between major 7 and minor 7, it will end up sounding like that.
Cool.
So I don't know. That's a kind of basic, we're just using a C major scale. If we use, any other kind of scale, it's going to start sounding crazier and crazier and crazier. And so there's kind of, once you open what's the phrase? Once you open the can of worms. Once you open, there's something about a can of worms. I don't know them.
Well, I think I've been using the phrase that, going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Also is like opening up a can of worms. Yeah. And that other than actually just even without your analyzing and describing what that is, it just sounds really nice. It's pleasant to listen to, and so that part is cool for me.
Yeah.
But so what happened first? Did you deliberately create this as a teaching tool, or did it just come to you through your playing? Were you influenced by maybe a mentor or somebody you look up to musically, or how did it come about?
Yeah, for that, I'd say I was kind of just like a self-discovery. Like I kind of just discovered it. I feel like I don't know anyone else that's doing it.
Well, not until they see this.
Yeah, but I think I was just kind of playing around with some chords, and I always like this chord, and I was kind of just trying to practice the one chord that I really liked, and I started doing this like ascending thing, and it just started sounding really cool, and I was like, oh, what if I do this kind of thing and just, play this scale in my top voice. And I was like, oh, wow, that sounds like amazing. And I just kind of spawned from that, I think. I don't know. I get excited just to.
I think that your fans will appreciate you describing that. And for me, I've asked my students over the years, where do you think music come from? Where does it come from? Yeah. And very rarely can somebody answer that question. And I can answer it, but I'm not sure my answer is right. Whether it's from the universe or source, or some people might even say it comes from God, or some people say it's scientific and that you have to, theorize and think. But I really, sometimes when people ask me, why did you write this song or that song? And maybe you can relate, it's like, I don't know. I just kind of heard it. I just heard this music and I wrote it down, or I taught it to my band, and then it became a song.
I totally agree. And that's why it's weird when sometimes I get these weird periods of like, nothing's coming to me, and it kind of freaks me out.
Right.
And it's happened a bit over the course of this year, like, kind of trying to fight, like, oh man, I want music to come out of me, and just nothing is. I don't know if it's because I'm less inspired because I'm not seeing live shows. Honestly, I have no idea. I feel like, everything around me inspires me, and that's how I create music. Maybe I hear something. I simultaneously, maybe I've heard a recording and there was a part of the recording that was really cool. And even if I haven't listened to it in like a month, something will have stuck with me, and it ends up kind of just manifesting in this like thing that I think of. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know where it comes from.
You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's what we do. We write and, play music, but, and again, we could postulate, and theorize about where that energy comes from. And there's a ton of things on the internet where, they're quoting Einstein and, about what he thinks of music. And I can't remember the quote all of a sudden, or Tesla, or Robert E. Grant, and, or
maybe we just crave it. Maybe we just like, it's like ear food. Like maybe a long time ago, people were like, oh, this sounds really good. Like to my ears, like or something.
I have no idea. And it's those periods of writer's block, right? That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yes.
And I have a lot of friends who are authors, or just even writers in, online, like the Intercept and so forth. And they talk about when they have writer's block, but they have an article due, or they have to finish a book, and they're fucking halfway through, and they're like, I have nothing right now, man. Yeah. It's a crazy place to be in. All I can tell you is that, when you're in your 20s, that feeling is one thing, but when you're in your 90s, like me, it's a whole other thing. Cause you're like, is that it? Is it over? Like, am I never going to write another piece of music? Or, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and then add the pandemic and no shows and no tours and blah, blah, blah. Well, whatever, we're doing little stuff, but it's what's even the point of writing a song right now? You know, I'm not saying that I believe that, but you know, there's a little bit of, I have this great idea and I have a song, but who am I going to play it for? You know?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I feel like it's been, you know, this year has kind of been some of that, like that mentality, but also like mentality of like trying to just accept that it is everything is what it is right now. You know, everything is as it is right now. And if I can't think of, you know, if nothing's coming to me, then okay. It's okay. You know, it's all okay. It's going to come, the song's going to come to me when it does. You know, but I think if anything I've just really taken a step back this year and just been okay with everything, you know, and just being able to be okay with, you know, the fact that nothing is, like, lots of things are not okay right now, and just being like, okay, this is how it is, and we're just gonna take it day by day, and, you know, then in the future, then I'll write a really awesome song. And if it's not today, if I don't start it today, then that's okay. That's okay too. That's kind of where I'm at.
It's absolutely, I hope you're listening to Danae, her words here. I mean, the whole time, but that was beautifully said. And one thing James Gavin, who's the author writing the book on George Michael, when we did our episode, one thing that came up was we wonder what the music is going to come from the pandemic. I mean, so when you talk about the Vietnam War or, you know, other movements or things, it's that music happened, kind of during those periods, but it sort of came after. It was in reaction to. Right. And so we're in the pandemic, and of course people are having Corona concerts and blah, COVID jams and blah, 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 COVID cooking. And, but I think that, you know, if this ends, whatever that looks like, I'm not going to guess what that looks like. I think then we're going to, like in 2022 or something, we're going to see, all right, this is what, you know, gestated. It's kind of like having a baby, like these 9 months or whatever it's been. We'll see it and we'll hear it then. And then that'll be the representation.
Totally.
But let's, do you want to tackle this E flat major, flat nine?
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Oh yeah. Major versus minor. I mean, I feel like I'm more of a major kind of person. Although I love minor chords. I love those minor 11th chords, but in overall, I'd say major for me. And as far as the E flat, what is it? E flat? I don't know. Over B? That's so crazy. How would I resolve it? Honestly, I feel like it's a kind of up.
It's a trick question. It's a trick question, I think.
I don't know. There, maybe that's how I'd resolve it. I don't know.
Ba, ba. And then shouldn't you go? Yeah. I was gonna try to sing something like that. Just do Mozart, just kind of tail it off there.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Question,
awesome.
Yeah.
Whoever that was is just going to be so psyched that you just did what you did. The funny thing is that there was a fourth question. People must think you're some kind of chord genius or something, because they said just some of your favorite chords, maybe. I don't know.
Some of my favorite chords.
I mean, you've kind of been doing that, but please feel free to rock it.
I mean, I think I've kind of starting to develop my own sound over the, you know, since, I don't know, maybe late high school, and I've been doing that. Actually, I was really inspired by Aaron Parks. I had a really amazing lesson with him my senior year of high school, and like this beautiful old upright piano somewhere on like right outside of Seattle, just beautiful. Like, I don't know. I just had a really amazing lesson with him where he was, you know, kind of introduced to me just the idea of using my ear to create colors and to create my own sound. And a lot of that was through like drones and like singing. But then with that, I've kind of it's ended up being using this foundation that I grew up with, you know, the jazz chord, the chords structures that I learned early on in middle school, and kind of using that as my foundation. And then from that, kind of creating sounds that, you know, that are me. I mean, I don't know. Maybe when people hear me, they're like, oh yeah, that sounds like Danae. But for me, I'm just trying to use my ears and be colorful. So like, it could be like, you know, going from this structure, you know, this fairly simple jazz chord to like the same kind of, you could use the same chord symbol, but playing, you know, that kind of sound instead, you know. I don't know. I just trying to, you know, lots of clusters and just kind of trying to find my own sound. I don't know. I guess favorite chords. I still love this chord. I keep going back to that chord, but just other random like clusters and such. I don't know. It ends up kind of just being a weird like cluster scale, but I guess it turns into a chord.
It's probably one of those self-actualizations you'll have eventually, as you did, you said 2 years ago or so, with this sort of chord scale exercise teaching tool. You know, maybe eventually you'll be able to articulate it in a way that's, you know, more refined.
It's hard to, I'm also so bad at like trying to explain how my brain works, and that's why I feel like sometimes it's hard for me to like teach lessons about like how I think about like piano and chords and stuff, because people want like structured, like this is how I do this, and I'm still figuring it out, and that makes it really hard to try to articulate. And that's probably why some of my responses are like a bit lengthy, because I'm like trying to figure out how to describe it. Like as I'm trying to, I don't know, it's not premeditated. I haven't like thought about why I play an E flat minor chord like that, but that's just kind of what I'm hearing, and just trying to use my ears as much as I can and develop unique, you know, sounds based on that.
I had this gentleman, Nicky Hamid, on the other night, and he's from New Zealand, and he was born in 1941. Wow. So I didn't ask his age. I just asked the year he was born, because I think it's kind of neat. And so he's either 79 or 80, but well-lived. Has a PhD in psychology, was a therapist and then a professor for many years, now retired. Why he came on my show, I have no idea. It was so cool. I felt like I was talking to Gandalf from Harry Potter. And he was like, you know, asking me if I had questions. I said, no, sir, please just talk. You know, I can't believe you're here and taking your time to speak to me. So, you know.
Oh, amazing.
But one of the things that he spoke to was, even for him, you know, coming on camera and speaking to me. We had never met in person and never talked before. And he goes, I yet get, you know, has a New Zealand accent. He goes, yeah, I yet get excited then, you know, still, and nervous, you know, to be in these situations. So like, still? Just, yeah, because you never know what's going to happen. And, you know, it's, you know, things just kind of go the way they go. And I was like, that's kind of like when you're a kid, right? I mean, you just sort of do stuff. You get to bang on the piano, or in my case, I just would go down to my room and put on concerts in my bedroom, you know, my saxophone. And I mean, nobody was there, but I was just in my bedroom, like, thank you, having fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel as though, you know, as we grow in age, we start to overanalyze or try to do stuff that we've already done. I mean, I've been guilty of both of those things, so I'm not pointing fingers, but I think it's cool that you can say, hey, I kind of just do what I hear, actually.
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, maybe at some point I'll try to put it into words and refine it and try to figure out exactly how I can explain it clearly. And I'm sorry if it wasn't like super clear, but it's honestly that I still don't really know. I'm still trying to figure out how my brain operates and how I'm trying to, make that a reality in my music, in my more recent music. I'm trying to really put all that. That's how I kind of get it all on the refined place, is just writing to, what I'm hearing. And I feel like that's the best way that I can showcase that right now. But not to say in the future I can, figure out words.
In my humble lived experience, it's better to postscript some kind of analytical than it is to pre-script it. But that I'm an improviser. My brother Tom always jokes that I like to just improvise and see how things go. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we have this list of questions that, we're going to get to, but we're also just going off script and talking about other things. But I think generally from what everybody, and what I was curious about, what everybody, your fans were asking you was, I wonder if she, is, writing or thinking about these chords or whatever beforehand, or would you kind of agree with that, or do you think that assessment is incorrect?
I would agree. I feel like it's actually either or. I feel like sometimes I'll think of chords first and then melody after, and then sometimes I think it's the opposite. I think sometimes a melody will just come to me and then I'll put the chords to the melody after the fact. It kind of just depends. It ends up just being what I'm inspired by in that moment.
So I think it's important.
There's no right or wrong.
Exactly. To say, like, the most important thing is to step away from judging ourselves about our process. We all have our process. And sometimes, as in for a guy like me, I'll wake up, as I told you, at midnight. It was actually 12:23. I remember looking at the clock. And so that's my process. That's where things happen for me. And I did a bunch of creating during that period up until noon in the day. And and so here's something interesting about that. I just had this intuitive hit. I said I should do a search on Danae and just see what comes up. Okay.
Oh boy. All right.
And I did the search, and this has nothing to do with you other than that this quote came up when I was reverse. Do you know how to reverse look somebody up on the internet?
No.
You can take a quote that somebody made and type it in, and it'll reverse look up the source.
Ah.
And so I typed in that E flat major, sharp 9, flat 11, up your butt, B chord over B. Sorry, I just got vulgar. I'm very sorry. And this quote came up. I'm fascinated that people talk of, quote, music theory as if it were actually a theory or a theoretical work. Right? So theory is it a theory? Music theory? I mean, are we just kind of
are we theorizing?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's so funny. You just typed that into Google and that's what came up. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, I use DuckDuckGo, so that has its own filters. I have private browsing, whatever. So I was like, forget everything else that I see here. This is a really interesting quote. Like, we do call it theory.
Technically, I feel like it's just a technical term. I don't know if it means much. I mean, I took AP music theory in high schoul.
So is that advanced placement, right?
Yes, I still did the test and there was still a test, but it was for music theory. It almost felt weird. It felt like I was being judged on how well I can write correct answers. I mean, I guess that's what a test is, an AP test. But just the fact that I was being tested on, you know, music theory was like a little strange, like just very structural. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's what they have to do in high school for those kinds of tests. They do AP tests for every subject, and I guess I don't know.
All right, so now we know that Danae was the valedictorian at her school.
Oh my gosh.
Graduated with honors. She was an AP.
Far from it. Oh my gosh.
They put me in AP as well, and I was like, oh, this is so much fucking work. I mean, I was honored to be one of the smart ones, but man, they make you work hard. All right, so let's barrel through these questions. When do you start playing? I think that person meant, when did you start playing? I think you answered that question.
Yes.
What motivates you to play keyboard related instruments every day? I think you want to speak to that?
What motivates me? I mean, it depends. I mean, sometimes I'm motivated, sometimes I'm not motivated. But like I said earlier, I think whatever the motivation is great. And I think if there's not a lack of motivation, I think that's also fine. And I think it's especially nowadays. But I mean, I don't know. I'll be motivated by, like, you know, a dog that I met that day, or a song that I heard, or any, you know, daily life event I think can inspire us to play and sit down at our instruments, or sit down at a new instrument, or do anything. I don't know. It's hard to say. I try to have a practice routine, and sometimes I don't have a routine, and it's kind of just ends up being whatever I'm feeling that day.
I think basically, if we read between the lines, this person, what motivates you to play keyboard related instruments every day, might be asking, I don't feel as motivated as you to do that. What motivates you? And you've given people permission several times now, at least twice. You know, if you're not feeling motivated, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up. If you go a day or two without touching your instrument, it's okay. It'll come back.
Yeah.
And
I feel like, I mean, I'm motivated because I want to, you know, play, you know, be a musician and be in this kind of field for the rest of my life. I mean, that's kind of huge. Like, I want to be, you know, doing this in, you know, 50 years. And that's crazy to think about. But I think it's also crazy that music is something that we can do in 50 years. And, like, you know, for our entire lives, we don't have to retire from it.
Danae,
it's crazy.
It's Danae. I'm not really exactly sure what year I started playing saxophone. So I just say 11.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like 4th or 5th grade I started, but I to keep it consistent on the internet and Wikipedia, I just say 11. So I've been playing saxophone for 44 years. So you're talking to a guy going on 50 years of playing.
Yeah. Hey,
so
I'm inspired by you. Like, that, you're inspiring. Like,
well, yeah, but I guess my point is it's great. And this is why my nephew Storm is so brilliant asking you to come on, because you're going, you know, we can play in 50 years. I'm like, yeah, you can. But this relationship to how do you motivate yourself to pick up your instrument, or in your case, the keyboard or whatever, and play every day, you know, when you start to get to where I'm at and you've put in a lot of time, I mean, forget 10,000 hours. I'm sure it's been 100,000 for me and a lot of people in my friends. So it's really, this is really interesting to me, because I'm kind of cultivating old farmland that I've had for 40 years or 45 years. And I go back and I might plant new crops, but I might plant the same crops, and I just want tomatoes. You know, I just want to play one of my songs that I wrote when I was 25, and that's what I want to do. Or maybe I'll do something different. But we don't have to retire. Yeah. And, you know, speaking to Nikki, who's 80, whatever, and, you know, is retired, but is still out there, you know, taking his time to talk to me for a couple hours. I'm like, that's pretty badass to have that motivation at that age, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I think it's, it's incredible. I mean, it's inspiring seeing, people his age, just doing it to keep
Anything.
still grinding. That's crazy. I mean,
like on Zoom with some dude from New York who he's never met. And I mean, I was very respectful. I mean, I told him I have no desire to make fun of you. I just love you. And, sir. So let's, I'm going to ask you this. If you have to go, I can close it off. But if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And okay, cool. So 2 people asked about A.R. Rahman. What songs you should mostly like, please tell me. And A.R. Rahman music?
I do know his music. I don't know it. I would say I don't know it well enough to make any suggestions per se. I don't know. I did see that question. I was a little like, but I think he's an incredible, composer and, musician, and I, respect his work very much. I don't have any suggestions though.
Can we do the old sage and the young up and coming famous thing for a second? People, and especially now with the way the internet is, people will associate our music, meaning your music and my music, okay?
Yeah.
Specifically, but in general, with what they understand about music. So I go to Norway, I don't know, early 2000s, doing some festivals there. I've had a couple of Norwegian artists on the show, and they're like, "Oh, you sound like Jan Garbarek." Now I don't really sound like Jan Garbarek, but that's their reference point. To them, that's their connection to saxophone and their country.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget one time I was in Iceland playing. Do you know that band Tift with Hilmar Jensen and Jim Black?
Yeah.
And we played this concert, and that's pretty aggressive, like rock improv. And this woman, probably in her 80s, I don't know, maybe 70s, comes up to me. She goes, "You remind me of Louis Armstrong." I was like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, I was able to see him. He came through Iceland then, and your energy reminds me of." Okay, first of all, that's a huge compliment.
Wow.
But it's also her point of reference. She's in Reykjavik. She lives in a small country. How many jazz shows did she get to go see?
Right.
And she's associating Louis Armstrong with which was, in my case, Tift is a very arguably white, angry, like free jazz rock band. I mean, it's pretty safe to say that that's what's going on there. And maybe we could even throw in male to just seal the deal. And so to be associated, I mean, I hugged her. I said, "You absolutely made my life by comparing me to Louis Armstrong." I mean, but my point just being that whatever the comparison, to this A.R. Rahman, it's just somebody trying to connect to your music.
And it's, I'm, I feel like it's almost like I could take it as a compliment that they even want to associate, they even want to ask me something, in relation to him. Like, I mean, he's an incredible composer, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know. But it's cool. I appreciate people, also that person might be, in a country on the other side of the world, and, the inquiry is even like, very cool. Very cool.
See, isn't Danae isn't she so nice, everybody, and so humble, and I hope you stay this way when you in your 50 years, because people change. But so how would you define the style you play, and how do you started to build it? Okay, you pretty much answered that too, kind of.
Yeah.
What I tried to do with the 8 billion questions that your fans asked you was to kind of contextualize them and make it a little more organic. But at the end here, in case we miss something or you get inspired, and again, just remember, I can always take me out or cut this stuff out.
Yeah.
How would you define the style? You'd be surprised Danae, how many of my musician friends are like, oh, can we do that again? I'm like, yeah, we're recording. It's like we're in the studio. You can do it again. No problem. More work for me, but it's all right. Smallest, I like this question. I've been asking my very well-known friends, what's the smallest audience you've ever performed for?
I was actually trying to think about that this morning.
You're supposed to pretend like you haven't heard the questions.
Oh, I've never heard that question.
Good job.
I guess, I don't know. I'm trying to think. Smallest audience. I mean, in New York, I've played to some pretty small audiences. I'd say 5 or less people. You know, with a few groups. You know, actually, I did a gig at this venue called Pianos. It's in the East Village, and that was like maybe 2 winters ago.
Wow, you played at Pianos. Interesting.
Yeah, they have like an upstairs like lounge area, so not like the stage, but like an upstairs area.
Wow.
And I just did.
Did you get fired? I'm just kidding.
I actually do think that might have been the smallest audience. There was, my group was, I was playing my jazz acoustic stuff, some of which you can hear on my EP, Shelter, which is on platforms and stuff. And I was playing some of that music, and yeah, there was 4 people in my band, including myself, and there was like 1 person sitting and then in the audience listening who was in the other band that was going to play after, and then like 1 other person that just decided to come upstairs and like start dancing, which was awesome.
That's
like
cool.
I actually loved that.
That's so cool.
And I didn't mind, like, I mean, we were getting paid for tips. It wasn't, I knew that going in, and I was just like, oh, right. Like, I'll totally like keep playing this music
100%.
and have this person, just totally vibing, dancing to the music. He was a great dancer too. So I'd say that was the smallest audience, but honestly, I feel like I get more nervous around larger audiences anyway, so I didn't really mind at all.
There are countless stories, some of which have been and will be on this show, where there are people who are now very well known, if not just downright famous, who people look at and think they started there.
Right.
So let's just stay with the Bad Plus, because I had Reed Anderson on.
Totally.
People think, well, they must have just been popular from the beginning. They used to play the Knitting Factory, and there would be 8 people in the audience.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
And then,
that's awesome.
the drummer Paul Motion, right?
Of course.
He used to go see Miles Davis at the Village Vanguard in Manhattan. And he said there'd be like 18 to 20 people in the audience, like watching Miles back in the 60s or whatever, 70s.
Insane.
Probably more the 60s, because we were bummed out because we did it. I was playing with Paul at the Vanguard, and one of the nights, there just weren't so many people. He goes, Bill Evans used to play, the pianist, on Sunday. He would do the afternoon. What's it called? The cabaret show? No, what's that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh no, I should know. Matinee.
Yeah, cabaret.
The matinee on Sundays, and same thing. There'd be 25 people there or whatever.
Wow.
I know, but it's hard to imagine.
Especially with Bill Evans or Miles, like, man, it's crazy. But no, yeah, it makes sense though. I mean, it makes sense. You gotta start somewhere. Like, how are you? I feel like the only way you're gonna start like up here is, maybe if your parent or someone relative is like way up there. I don't know. Like, I feel like some of these like pop people these days, who, I'm not going to speak to their talent or not non-talent, but some of these guys can just start way up here just because their dad, money, I don't know, that kind of stuff. It's just like, it's almost not fair, but I would much rather.
That's not fair, man.
Not fair. I don't know, but it's like it's not. I'm not even saying that. Like I want that. I would rather be where I am right now, and where Bill Evans probably started, and Miles, and I would rather so much. It's more gratifying. I feel like once you continue to make connections and just pursue your life in music, to start really at that, I'm really working hard, and I'm working my way up the ladder. And for myself, I feel like I'm the kind of person that needs that motivation. And if I didn't have the motivation to start, if I was already up here right now, I don't know if I would be as motivated or want to practice or want to write as much. Because what am I don't know. What am I working towards if I already have it? If I already have a lot of what I'm striving for, what I would want in my life in music. And I don't know. I think, having that goal of being that, the small staircase or step ladder, and starting from that, bottom, lower place is great. I think it's necessary almost.
And so I guess for me, the overlying, and through doing this podcast, I realize I start a lot of my statements with so there I did it again. I'm attempting to curb my enthusiasm with starting my sentences with so. The overarching theme here is, folks, if you're 20, whatever, maybe even in your early 30s, it's okay. If 8 people are in your audience, play to those people dancing, play to that one person sitting there with their glass of wine or a cup of coffee and really listening to you. Play for them. It's okay. Yes. Yeah. Because sometimes when you start playing for 1,000 or more people, it's more difficult to connect with everybody. It's almost just, I'm just putting on a show here and I hope people dig it,
Totally. I've been in those instances of, a handful of times so far. I'm less nervous, which is great, because there's less, I don't have to make eye contact with anyone.
True.
It's really, I get to, I kind of just get to do my thing. In that way, maybe I play, I don't know. I just feel like I'm more nervous around small audiences, and I feel like it's, sometimes maybe I'd rather have it that way, because then it can be more personable, and I'll affect, 10 people in a super large audience. But if I can really touch someone, one person in a 8-person, audience, that's so much more gratifying to me.
Agreed. I 100% agree. And I think it's interesting. Chris Speed the saxophone and clarinet player composer, has just texted me 10 times, which is unusual. He's a very sentient being. Isn't
he your next door? Wait.
No, he moved. He's out in LA with his wife and kid now.
Okay.
But he was my next door neighbor.
Yeah, I remember.
For years.
And I remember you when I one time we were hanging and you're like, yeah, that's him practicing or something or you can hear him practicing. I don't know. Maybe it was someone else.
No, it was Chris. It was Chris, and you went over and knocked on the door, and because you wanted to meet Chris Speed, and he came down and said hi to you, and you were all psyched. But I just think it's funny that I haven't heard from Chris in a couple of weeks. He's got his own stuff going on with the family. Everything's fine, and then during this interview, he's texting me madly.
Awesome.
This is what do you call this? I have an agenda, a personal agenda.
Mm-hmm.
So I talked to this author who's writing. Do you know who George Michael is?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the Careless Whisper solo?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm talking to this author, James Gavin, and first of all, that solo is written out, which I did not know. Did you assume that it was written out?
I did not know that.
And he goes, it could be either way, but as a non-musician, he was saying, it sounds composed to me. I said, yeah, but you never know with this stuff. Like somebody could have walked in the studio and just played a couple of different solos and they pick one out and right. So it's composed, and relating it back to something you said earlier, George Michael wrote out the solo, but wrote it out of the range of any saxophone. So nobody could play it. And they had to audition saxophonists to, right? I didn't know this either. And I was fascinated by it. And I don't remember, it was like 8 or 10 saxophonists. And the last guy was this guy, Stephen Gregory. And I'm sorry if I butchered, I think it's Steve Gregory. Anyway. And so he said, yeah, you just need to transpose it so it's playable. And he did a take, or I think it was first take. And George was like, that's beautiful, man. Let's use that. And that became this iconic, I mean, like it or not, that thing is everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact that it came out of somebody's mind as a composed moment in a song that, can we really sing any more of that song other than the sax solo?
Right.
I mean, you and I could, musicians, but, in general.
Yeah, I remember the first time I actually heard the song in entirety. I was like, oh my God, this is a song. I was like, whoa.
Oh my God. Oh, George Michael, he just was so hated. He was so hated on after that whole bathroom incident, and his career just took a real nosedive, and it was really dark. So the fact that you're acknowledging it, I'm acknowledging it, this author is acknowledging it, is, I know George Michael, even though he's passed away, would really appreciate the honor that he deserves.
Totally. Totally, 100%.
All right, you mentioned your EP. We're going to link that up for people. I think that's all the questions. Now, do you have anything you want to say in conclusion, Danae Greenfield?
In conclusion, I am, I was even nervous a little bit for this. I don't know. I just get nervous,
I get nervous being on camera. I was on here like 20 minutes before you, just getting used to being on camera, and I've done a bunch of these, so.
Yeah, but that being said, it's so easy. You're a very easy person to talk to, and I love having these conversations. And I feel like I haven't even I needed this almost. Like I feel like this whole year has been absolutely crazy, and it's nice to be able to sum up some of what I've been kind of thinking about, contemplating, realizing like over the course of this year. And it's nice to put it, into words and to have a conversation about it. And yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I can't thank you enough, Danae. And your closing comments are perfect, because for me, this has been a lifeline, getting a chance to talk with my friends and also friends of my family and so forth. And just, sometimes go down memory lane, sometimes talk about how actually dark it's been for us, non-essential gig workers, whatever you want to call us. So just know that everybody appreciates your time, especially me. And so everybody, Danae Greenfield, check out her music. Your website is DanaeGreenfield.com, if I remember correct. And anyway, everything's will be linked so that you can find her music and her EP and her John Legend $100 Grammy nominated song. Sorry, I got to joke about that stuff, because I've been in that position too, so I know the feeling. Love you. Have a beautiful day, and we'll talk to you later, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Constant Constance. Tune in every week for new conversations. And if you want even more, check out Andrew's Patreon for more exclusive content and additional conversations. Hosted and produced by Andrew D'Angelo. Edited and mixed by Lucy Little. Original music by Andrew D'Angelo and Maximilian Moore D'Angelo. Intro is Henrietta Weeks. Thanks so much. See you next time.
You fucking rocked it. Like she doesn't know she says podcast, right? Like she doesn't even